Hello, my friends. So it's time for another kit review from Brew Day Brewing Supplies. They have very kindly sent me this Praise the Sun double IPA all grain kit based on the beer of the same name from Shiny Brewery. And it's a big one. So it's aiming at 8.1%. It's a really hefty grain bill, obviously, as a result. And a lot of hops in there as well. So I'm really looking forward to this one. Got to admit, I hadn't heard of Shiny Brewery before, but have since been on their website to obviously order a few beers for research and development purposes, and hopefully to do a comparison at the end when this is done. So I'll put a link to them in the description as well, and to this kit, obviously, on the Brew Day website. But yeah, obviously, I have been sent this for free for the purpose of review, but as always, I will review it honestly and as impartially as I can. So let's have a look at the kit and get into the brewing. Okay, so let's have a look at the actual contents of the kit. As per usual, we've got really detailed instructions here, including notes and tips from the brewer themselves. This is a 23-litre batch. As I said, it's 8.1%. We're aiming for 1075 original gravity. One thing I will point out here is the adjustment to efficiency down to 69%. So I really like that, taking account of the higher gravity of the beer and the fact that most people will tend to get a slightly lower efficiency from that. So that's really good. And yeah, like I said, I won't go through the full recipe for obvious reasons, but we will talk about some of the instructions there in a bit more detail. We've got some nice stickers from the brewery, a couple of beer mats as well. Another thing that really impresses me with this kit straight away is that we've got 33 grams of WHC Sanders yeast. So this is essentially WHC version of Vermont in dry form, and 33 grams is the equivalent to 3 full single packs. So we have got a really good pitch rate or pitch size for this kit, and a proper amount of yeast for attempting a beer with this kind of ABV and original gravity. So no skimping on the yeast there, and that's, you know, that adds a lot of value to the kit as well. For obvious reasons, yeast is usually one of the more expensive parts. The other thing that adds a lot of value to this kit is the huge amount of hops that are in it. So we've got Citra, Sabro, Idaho, Cashmere. There's some Columbus in there as well for an early bittering edition. But in total, there's well over 500 grams of hops in there. So yeah, this kit is expensive because obviously it's a double IPA. There's a lot of expensive ingredients in there, from the yeast to the hops, and obviously a fairly hefty grain bill as well. But I think that represents good value when you factor in, you know, you've got the equivalent of 3 single sachets of yeast, you've got over 500 grams of hops, and these are varieties that are going to cost you a decent amount of money if you're buying them in 100-gram packets. And then obviously we've got the grain bill. So we've got over 7 kilos of grain, plus some brewing sugar as well. So we've got a little bit of dextrose just to push up the OG and gravity on it too. So yeah, plus obviously it saves you the hassle of putting it all together yourself. If you work out the cost of all the individual parts of this kit, you know, you're definitely still saving money, I think, buying it in the kit form, plus you've got the convenience. So far so good. Again, just really impressed with the way these kits are put together by Brew Day. They do a great job. They go and speak to the brewers directly and get as much input from the brewery as possible, which you can see from the detail in the instructions and the kind of brewers tips and all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, and you can go and check it out on the website on the link below and see for yourself. So by the way, they do also do these in half-size batches as well. So if you don't want to do a full 23 litres, which I'm guessing, you know, some people might not want to do a full 23 litres of 8.1% beer, but you can get that as an 11.5 size batch. Obviously, bear in mind, 23 litres is the starting size for the brew length. Once we factor in the losses, particularly to the absorption for this sort of level of dry hopping, you're going to at best get probably a keg's worth out of it, maybe a little bit less, but we'll see. So yeah, let's see what Shiny Brewery's Praise the Sun double IPA is all about. So I'll talk you through the brewing footage, starting off with the water additions here. The kit instructions recommended a chloride to sulfate ratio of 2:1. So on the screen, you'll see the additions that I made in order to reach those sorts of numbers. I also had a little bit of phosphoric going in as per usual, just to bring down the mash pH into a suitable range. So the target here was about 5.3. And of course, the trusty old whisk for mashing in. Always the easiest method I find when you're brewing at this sort of scale. So the mash pH was bang on target there, and using my new Kegland pH meter, which I'm finding really good. So just got a little bit of recirculation going on here at the end of the mash. And that's the last of the sparge water just going into the kettle. So we had a little addition of the Columbus at the beginning of the boil. Not much, but just enough to bring those IBUs up a bit. And then nothing else until right at the end. So we had the dextrose going in the last 5 minutes, I think, and after that, just the Whirlpool hops. So we were whirlpooling at 75 degrees, and we had over 200 grams of Citra, Cashmere and Sabro. And these hops smell amazing out the packet, really good quality hops from Brew Day as per usual. And those were left to whirlpool for about 20 minutes at 75 degrees before chilling it all down to pitching temperature. And here we are, just transferring into the all-rounder. So I do my kind of hop filtering right at the end of the process, which is why you've got the filter bag over the end of the pipe there. So I did miss my final gravity by a few points here. I ended up topping it up just a little bit with a little bit of malt extract, just to bring it up to closer to the 1075 that was required. And nice big pitch of yeast going in there. So as I said earlier, in the kit there's the equivalent of 3 packets worth of the Sanders yeast, which I popped into the brew fridge at 20 degrees for fermentation. So the yeast kicked off really quickly on this one. I think this was just the next morning, and had nice krausen starting to form. Obvious signs of fermentation going on there. And once it really got going, you could see how heavy the Whirlpool additions were, because there was quite a bit of hot residue left in the work, which you can see forming around the krausen ring there, and on top of the krausen a little bit as well. So even after filtering quite a bit, that got through. And then final gravity, it didn't want to drop down as far as it was supposed to go either. So I was a few points short on the final gravity. Tried the usual tricks, heating it up a little bit, shaking up the yeast and everything, but it just didn't want to get below 1017. So yeah, the ABV was a bit short on this one, but otherwise all good. So the moment of truth for the Praise the Sun all grain kit. There it is, the finished product. It is looking pretty nice in the glass, I must say. As I said in the previous footage, everything went well with the brewing of this kit. apart from just a few issues with hitting the numbers, and yeah, not totally sure exactly what was going on there, but the ABV did end up a little bit down on where it should have been. So the can of the original that I've got here, which I think I will actually try first, is this one's coming in at 8%, so it's very slightly less than what the kit was supposed to hit at 8.1%, and my version came out about 7.2%. So that aside, let's get the original into the glass. So that is Shiny Brewery's Praise the Sun. I've really enjoyed all the other beers that I got from this brewery when I bought a little selection box for obviously research purposes. Now, in the glass, there's a little bit of a difference in colour there. So my one does look a little bit more orange, slightly darker colour on there, but it's pretty close. They've both got really nice, light, fluffy white heads. This one's been in the glass for a few minutes now, and it's definitely sticking around on the homebrew version. So obviously my one would have ended up with quite a higher finishing gravity. I wouldn't expect that to impact on the colour as such, but yeah, let's give this a little sniff. So on the nose, there's definite sort of dank tropical notes, a little bit weedy maybe, so there's maybe a little bit of that kind of skunky kind of smell, not skunk as in the off flavor, you know, the other type. There's a little bit of that kind of coconutty Sabro thing going on, and yeah, maybe some like really overripe kind of pineapple. So you know when pineapple sort of is almost on the point of actually fermenting. Give it a taste. Bit more of a bright kind of tropical fruit note on the flavour. Again, definitely some pineapple there. A little bit like prickly bitterness at the end. So the IBUs on this are about 54 according to the instructions, which I think is quite nice actually for a beer of this kind of strength. So yeah, kind of like a bright pineapple-y, slightly kind of coconut flavoured thing. There's definitely some of the Sabro notes coming in there. But really like surprisingly light and almost refreshing as well, which is a dangerous thing to say for an 8% beer. So yeah, that's a lovely, dangerously drinkable double IPA from Shiny Brewery. Now let's have a little look at my version. So again, colour's a little bit different. On the nose, quite similar, but not as much of that kind of like slightly skunky, weedy kind of aroma. It doesn't smell as dank as the real thing. This one has a little bit more of a kind of creamy coconut thing on the nose, so there's more of that Sabro and Cashmere coming through on the aroma, I think. And yeah, the fruit aroma there is a little bit more softer, I guess, sort of more soft kind of tropical fruit aroma. But yeah, smells nice. They both do, to be fair. So for this one, I think the flavour follows on a bit more closely from the aroma than the real thing. The creamy kind of coconut thing from the Sabro, and I think to an extent the Cashmere as well, is more prominent, I think, with this one. But there's definitely still kind of pineapple in there. So I'd say like the balance of flavours is maybe a little bit different, but the main things that I'm picking up on are pretty similar between the two of them. This, interestingly, even though the ABV has come out lower, sort of mouthfeel and body on this one is quite a bit fuller, and in a way that almost makes this drink like the stronger or heavier sort of beer. So this sort of makes me think more like the kind of really thick double IPAs that you might get from some other craft breweries, which in my head makes me think, oh, this tastes like it's probably quite a big kind of strong beer. Whereas actually the original version, which is stronger, drinks more lighter and easier drinking. So not in a bad way, it's just they're both kind of, yeah, a little bit different. So and obviously that's probably down to the residual sort of sweetness and body that's been left in this one from it not attenuating out quite as far as it should have done. So yeah, it's not an exact carbon copy of that, but as I said, part of that might be down to the issues I had in terms of hitting the numbers, obviously, because there's quite a big difference in final gravity between the two. But what I will say is it's a really, really nice beer. And yeah, the original was a really nice beer. This is a really nice homebrew version of it. And I think that out of the kits that I've had from Brew Day so far, this is probably my favourite one, I think. Yeah, so really good kit. I would definitely recommend this. Get on the link in the description to check it out. And yeah, for somebody who's not actually always that keen on beers with Sabro in, this one is really ticking the boxes for me. So yeah, might have to start using a little bit of Sabro in some of my own beers as well. Okay, cheers everyone. If you've got any questions, stick them in the comments and let me know what you think of the video.
I'm the dude, so that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, you know, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.